Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, everybody. For those of you that are new here, my name is Monette, and this is my channel Evolve with Monette. I am a professional intuitive empath, and we are going to get right into the video. This is an important message for any of us divine feminines. And I was really struggling because whenever you do a live, you only have so many words that you can put in. And so I was trying to make it fit. But the sentences, just in case your brain doesn't compute this morning, if you're chasing the love that's struggly, you will miss the love that is snuggly. Let's chat. Many of us have had struggle love, and it seems that struggle love is glamorized. No matter what community you're in, it seems to be glamorized. Now, in the Black community, it is especially glamorized, meaning that the idea of a ride or die, Bonnie and Clyde. Now, that's not a Black thing per se, but the idea and the notion. And I'm like, has anybody ever researched the tragedy of Bonnie and Clyde when we're all idealizing that kind of life? A lot of us will be in relationships and have been, especially if you're an empath here, that have been toxic, that have been low vibrational, where someone was depleting you and asking so much of you, and you were being tested as to your loyalty to them. Were you going to struggle with them? Were you going to stick and stay in the mess? And that is the measure of your love. That is the test. And like I said, in my community specifically, it's a whole big thing about how much you can struggle and how much you should put up with, how much times people cheat on you and treat you badly, and whatever the case may be. I've counseled people through it, I've watched people go through it, and I have been through it in my own right, even though the person I went through it was white. But they were personifying a different energy. So, what I will tell you here is this: if you want to get to the love that's snuggly, you have to release the love that is struggly. Not a word. That's why it's in quotations. I had to make allowances for that, even in that limited title space. If you want that, you have to release the love that is struggly, y'all. And let me explain. You cannot idealize being in pain. We cannot be in pain and think that we are going to actually have any kind of success or get a little confirmation from my angels or get our needs met. You don't get your needs met in struggling love. You give and you give and you give and you give and you pray and you pray and you pray and you pray and you hope that all the pain eventually goes away, and it does not. And then one day somebody looks at you in resentment and says, "Why couldn't you be like this other person?" And you're like, "Excuse me? I just struggled with you. I was in the trenches with you. I kept your secrets for you. I coaxed and loved you when you couldn't find a way through." That is struggle love. And then they abscond, and you're like, "What just happened?" Or they expect you to stay while they treat you in the most piss poor of ways. It's not acceptable. That's the quick message for you. You can't have both. You can get to snuggly love where people care about you and you are enfolded in the arms of the universe, whether it be with your friendships or your partnerships or your loverships or your whatever ships. You can have that, but you have to release the idea that to be in pain is good. A lot of us, that comes from our trauma in our childhood. You guys get that? The Crappy Childhood Fairy, that's an actual channel here on YouTube, and she does brilliant work. I highly recommend any single empath or divine feminine go watch, because I promise you your woundings will match her messages. And she does a brilliant breakdown of letters and things that come in, and she talks about how we all kind of trauma bonded with partners in our life after a childhood where we weren't treated right, and we have CPTSD. So what I want you to understand is you don't have to struggle for free, meaning if you're giving away that energy, make it be towards something that is benefiting you. Are you struggling for the work that you do, the craft that you do, the creativity that is in you, the beautiful energy that you imbue and pass on to others with every smile? That is something to struggle for. That is where you can walk your long mile, but not for a relationship that's not reciprocal and not paying it back to you. A lot of us need comfort and we need things, and we're not getting it from partners because they never would bring that to us, and we not are not seeing it. If you want the love that is snuggly, you must release the love that is struggly and the ideal that that means that you're a good partner. Partnership edifies you and it buoys you into being your better self. When you have a good partner, you will know because your mental and actual health improve. I can attest to it personally. I have held on for so long to a love that was struggling and that I didn't receive clarity even in its platonic friendship area. I didn't receive clarity. It was always this weird subterfuge and interlooping nonsense. And it's crazy because I am a person who knows how to communicate, but I allowed someone to think that they were a great fit for me and they were not because I don't like miscommunications and subterfuge and effery. I do not, and neither do you. It makes us crazy. That's why we all spin our tops trying to figure out the best way to go about a relationship that we should probably not even be in. When I realized that I was forfeiting my snuggly for struggly, I got out immediately. I realized that, wait a minute, you can be edified. You can have someone that sticks by your side. I'm always studying and listening to speakers and thought leaders. And one of the messages that I heard even this morning as I was doing my early morning meditations and kind of study, I heard someone say, a practitioner say, specifically about love that's struggling. She wasn't talking about struggle love per se, but I kind of made the connection. And she was saying that when you're in a good partnership with someone, they will be lifting you up and showing you that another audible confirmation for my angels. They will be showing you that you are worth something, that you're capable of it. Now, a lot of us, self esteem has to be generated from within. No one can give that to you. But I will say, I noticed a diametric difference here from a struggle love that I had, a struggle friendship that I had, to a snuggly friendship that I have. And when I say snuggly, what I mean is figuratively, okay? Because that's what I mean. I was figuratively, well, I was actually struggling in one friendship and I got figuratively snuggled in another one emotionally. Someone wrapped themselves around me and gave me the best hugs in my energy. Does that make sense? They literally were like, y'all, it's every song of love. And no matter how you disperse it, it came from above. It was like on the wings of love, up and above the clouds, the only way to fly. That energy is how I realized that my struggly love was a lie. And sometimes, and all times, guys, we create from contrast. So I would not have understood fully that struggly love could never last unless I was going to carry the full weight of it. And I just got sick of it until I got the snuggly, until I got someone that was in my life. But here's what happens. You don't just magically get someone in your life. I've had people ask me stuff like that. Even Emily, I think we talked recently on a live and you're like, when is this going to happen? And the shift happens when you change your paradigm. It's an internal paradigm shift that causes that. No one, my angels always had it in escrow for me, and it's an escrow for you too. If you're listening and you want snuggly, it's there. Escrow means that it's waiting. It's already in your bank account spiritually, ready to be deposited to you whenever you decide that you have the funds. When you're in struggly love, it's insufficient funds. It's NSF fees all day. It is bounce checks because the person that you're dealing with didn't come to play. They came to deplete and siphon your energy away. Message. So that struggly love means that you're never validated and you can't go after your dreams. It doesn't mean you can't. We all do. I certainly did, even in the midst of my struggle love. But it means that that person energetically blocked me. They gossiped about me. They talked about me and did stuff that I didn't even realize until halfway through that they were doing. They resented me. They were jealous of me. You can't build with someone who loves struggly. And struggling means that they want to see you in a position that is lesser than them. They never want to see you ascend. And so they energetically are sending all kinds of weird frequencies to you. When I tapped into the fact that I am a practitioner and that I am a spiritualist and that I am someone that has different energies and gifts, I stopped pretending that I was not able to see through the matrix. I knew that the people that they were around were toxic to me because they didn't believe in what I could be, because they were limited in their beliefs and they were insecure because they had loves that were never pure, because everything in their life didn't work right. And so that thought form is a cloudy thing that can float over your life, empath, especially if you're here listening. We all are highly susceptible to other people's energy. And I think we greatly underestimate that. That's my mission in life, is to teach that so you really get it. Not just do birds of a feather flock together, but energies of bad weather stay together as well. I couldn't ascend the way I wanted to because I knew that there was something struggly that was happening always, and there was rejection. I remember even creating the backdrop where when I am on film, you guys see me sit, and I was so very proud of it because it's a piece of art that I actually created, and I put together other things that were some of my favorites. And I remember sending a picture of it to my Struggley love, and she criticized it in every way and told me how it didn't make sense and it was too busy and this and that. Now, there is something to be said for everybody having a different aesthetic and taste. Everybody doesn't have to like what you like. That's great. However, comma, it was one of the many ways that she would try to intercept anything that I was trying to do. She was sending negative energy and toxicity because she didn't believe in me and she didn't understand how I could be true to myself, to my aesthetic, to my desires, to what I wanted. She didn't like it. And so she tried to undermine me and usurp my authority every chance she got a moment. And because I valued her opinion and I loved it, I did start to own it. Well, I didn't. I didn't take it down. I didn't change anything around. But I didn't like that my friend that I thought that I was in the best connection with was so critical of every single thing I did, how I looked, what I wore. I mean, I've told you guys before, being on cruises and having her be like, "Are you wearing that?" Meanwhile, in my current incarnation, there aren't too many moments, no matter what size I am, that people don't say, "Hey, I love that thing," or "I like that bracelet," or "I like that jewelry," or "I like that outfit," or "I like your makeup." And this is not about vanity, guys, but it is to say that my choices were right. They were the right choices for me. Not everybody's going to look like me or be like me. But if you have a friend that's supposed to be your quote unquote bestie and they are taking hits and chipping away at your structure and personality in their own way because they don't understand how you could live so brightly and so full in your own energy and full in your own self and true to yourself, that's love that's struggling. Now, for those of you that have had lovers, you guys know what that is. I've seen it happen. I remember I was a nanny for some kids when I lived in Alabama, and it was for a couple. And I remember that the woman got into school and she was in college and she was doing really good, and she came home and she got an A on a paper, and we were sitting around the dinner table, and her husband was usually so edifying to me and to other people, but to her he cut her right down. He made everything wrong about her getting that A. She was not able to be held down, and he berated her. Eventually they divorced, as you can imagine, but I remember that moment, watching that dynamic. It was a narcissist who didn't plan it, but couldn't stand to see her happy. And she was trying to stick and stay in that love with 4 kids. It was a love that was absolutely struggling. I was so proud of her when she found her way to real connection. And I was able to help her get into that real connection because it is someone that I actually knew too. But the point is that that struggling love will be something that is very distracting to you. You will think that you are doing all this work and it's worth something, it's going to pay off, and it doesn't pay off. I have ascended so much in my career and in my life when I've had people that were kind and loving and that treated me right, people that believed in me immediately. I didn't have to convince them. I didn't have to deal with the future. When I say future, I compare the person that I dealt with a lot of struggling love with to the rap artist Future, if any of you guys are familiar. Someone who is completely and wholly unaccountable, someone with 1,025 baby mamas, somebody who is irresponsible and crude, but feels like super entitled, like they're God's gift, like a whole mess. And they wanted me to struggle in that. And I said, no, I'm blessed. I will see my way out. But when I did, it was to be in a connection where It wasn't even that I left one connection for another, because that's not the truth. I actually left just for myself. And that's the message here, empath. You'll have to leave a struggly love for you. It can't be because you've got someone waiting in the wings. Because the truth is, I didn't really have anybody waiting in the wings. The truth is that I had friends around me that loved me and that were going to help and support me in their own way. But I actually didn't want to connect with anybody for a while because I didn't want to play, because I had spent so much time in Struggley, right? I didn't even think that Snuggley was possible. So I didn't do what a lot of narcissists do, which is like groom a new supply. Meanwhile, you're still with the other person. I always compartmentalize, and I have an order of operations regarding how my friendships go and loyalty and tenure. I have all my own weird things in my head. But what I did realize is that I didn't want Struggley. I wanted Snugly instead. I wanted to be loved on. I wanted someone who planned things. I wanted someone who made dinner reservations. I wanted someone who would follow through. I wanted someone who was happy to see me. I wanted someone who was filled with hospitality. I didn't want Struggley. I was tired of Struggley. It was exhausting. And when you get exhausted enough, you will break out of Struggley and find your way to Snuggly, and you will realize that in there you are enough. There are people that will love you just the way you are, that will not criticize everything you do, that will support your decisions, and that will not come against you. I remember when I was ready to be in a relationship and be married, and my struggly friend uh, didn't like that. She was a full Jezebel spirit, and she didn't see the merit of marriage. In fact, she prided herself on ruining marriages, specifically being a third party in every way she could be. And she always talked about how everybody hates their marriages and marriages don't work and this and that. And you know what? We've seen evidence that maybe on some levels those things can be true, but there is nuance to that. And there are certain things that marriages can do and do. And at the time, that was a space that was in my life. I was like, well, this is what I'm ready for. Now, you would think any bestie is going to support you and have your back, right? But that was not what Struggley Liv did. No, she wanted to not protect, she wanted to attack. Just one half of that equation. And I remember us taking my Struggley connection back to the airport after a visit, and I brought up this conversation, and I was trying to get her to co-sign because my partner at the time, who is now my husband, and I were just kind of like dabbling in the notion of elevating our relationship. And I brought up marriage, and she so curbed it. She so hated on it. She's like, "Is that really you want? I didn't even know you wanted that." She was so mean. I didn't understand it because it's not what a good friend does. When you throw someone the ball and the alley oop is there, then they take it usually. Usually a good friend co-signs that with you. Yeah, when are you going to get your act together, future husband, and do right by my friend? But she came against it again and again and again. That was struggling love because she didn't see it for herself and she didn't want me to be happy. And that's the thing. Even if you don't want something for yourself, you can want for someone else to be happy if that's what they want. But she did not want me to have happiness in any form. And she blocked that. I will never forget that. It was such a pivotal awareness and a moment that I had. It was one of the many cracks in the foundation of my struggling connection when I realized I got to get away from this person. She's a straight up hater. How dare they? Because most besties would step in and be like, yeah, sir, get your act together. My friend is amazing. Verbal or audible confirmation. But that's not what she did. She went out of her way to try to dismiss it and try to ruin it because, well, she was a hater and I still was in that struggle love. And she wanted me to put all my attention and focus on her. She wanted her to be the object of my energy and the object of my desire and the object of my love and kindness. She didn't want me to diversify. And I stuck by her side in that struggle love and I got nothing for it. That's the thing, too, I want you to understand. A lot of us spend a lot of energy and time dedicating ourselves to that struggle love, and then we realize at the end they would never give anything to us. When I realized how little she valued me towards the end of that connection and how she would forfeit all of the struggle energy that I had poured into her for another situation, another audible confirmation that was nothing even like that level of energy and output that I had given, I was like, oh. And really, this message here too is for those of you that leave Struggly, then they will have someone that is struggling for them too. Meaning that's karma. That always happens. But I realized like, oh, this is not I put all this time and energy into it and she didn't even value it. And it's because I wasn't valuing me. I have another video up here that I made last night that has a similar theme. If you're not picking you and choosing you, then you will not be seen by whomever you're doing that struggle love with, whoever you're making that great effort with. And I realized it was such it wasn't just a waste of time because as empaths and earth angels we will transmute and extract the lesson, and I did. I totally get the lesson, and that's why I'm here. I get to teach it to you. But that's what I learned. I wanted Snuggly, and Struggley was never going to come through. Okay, I moved on to Snuggly. I moved on to exactly what felt right for me. I realized the style of love that I needed, how I needed to be treated and handled, quote unquote, by someone in order for me to fully meet myself. And the thing about that is when you move to Snuggly, when Snuggly comes up next, you may not even realize the ways that you will flourish under Snuggly. I had no idea. I didn't necessarily write down a list or anything like that. And I didn't even know that Snuggly in the form and fashion that I now enjoy it could exist. I really thought it was a myth. Isn't that funny? I thought that the best of the best was just Struggly. Hilarious. It's hilarious to think now. But that is not the way that it really goes down. When you find your self esteem and you leave for whatever reason and you extract yourself from your future, from your deleterious deadbeat baby's dad or whatever your situation is, um, then you will have probably the best connections you've ever had because you think you're worth them and they edify you. And you can't understand. And that's the thing I really want to convey. When Snuggly comes through, it will lift and buoy you. And it's not that you're being codependent, it's that you're finally having someone who's seeing your worth. You are not trash, you are absolute treasure. And it happens right away. With Struggly, you are the trash, whether you realize that or not. They say one man's trash, another man's treasure. A lot of us have been in relationships where people have trashed us, and we allowed it to happen because we didn't think that we deserved much. And that is a direct reflection of how that relationship existed. In my Struggly connection, she really looked down on me, thought she was better than me, and was even embarrassed by me. And I shudder to think how many days I spent around her just being delighted to be around her, and she did not feel at all the same about me. In fact, she was making fun of me. It was hurtful. But what I realized is that that taught me, in contrast, that Struggly, and now I know what Snuggly is. It's a whole different thing. And people that come in and edify you with Snuggly will lift you, and they will connect with you, and they will see things in you that you don't even see. How many of us have saw things in our Struggly that they couldn't see? Just because it was struggle didn't mean that they didn't have redeeming qualities, but we were always pointing them out and lifting them up and singing to them on the wings of love. But the truth is that they were not reciprocal to do that for us. That happens with Snuggly. I have been able, like I said, to ascend in different ways with friends that have actually seen my worth and wanted to see me succeed and believe in my dream, even when I couldn't see my way out of depression or my dark night of the soul, when I never thought that I would once again be whole. They saw me, they held place and space for me until I could climb my way out of despair. That's what Snuggly will do. Snuggly energy is rare air, but you'll never get it if you think that the best you can have is struggly. So you got to pick your life, choose what's right. But first, it starts with choosing you. Snuggly would have never come in my life if struggly is all I wanted to do. When I finally got clear about the fact that I deserved someone that also had my back the same way I had theirs, then the universe said, yes, we hear you. The universe is no respecter of persons or requests. It only says yes. I decided for a long time I wanted Struggly, that I wanted to put an S on my chest and be a superhero and save someone that didn't want to be saved. And God says, now that you're ready to put the S on your chest for yourself, we'll send in uh, everyone that will help you. It's not that I had to be saved, I had to save myself, boo. And then it was reaffirmed by the universe that there are people that want to edify and love and snuggle on you. That's the message this morning. Choose what's right for you, but first you choose yourself. And then you will take yourself into the next realm of a connection that can help you ascend. Someone who wants to build with you, someone who wants to invest in you, someone who wants to see you succeed, and someone who believes in your dreams. And it's not one sided. You will believe in theirs too. But I never worry about that because we had a lot of practice with that. with Struggley. You remember? I'm sure you do. I know how to be reciprocal and feed into someone else's energy because I spent so much time practicing with Struggley and they were exhausting. I don't ever feel tired in Snuggly energies. I feel loved, I feel seen, and I don't feel depleted. And even if there are boundaries and things that have to be addressed, it's things that may be needed, but it doesn't come with a vexation of the heart. It doesn't rip my heart apart, and I don't feel like someone is out to get me. When you're with Struggly, it's a weird, subversive, creepy feeling. You will always feel like they're out to get you. And it's a strange thing to feel when someone says, quote unquote, that they love you. Struggly love doesn't love you, they love the drama. Struggly love also looks like this. It's that we need to be breaking up all the time and fighting, and you need to chase me to prove your love, and all of that stuff. That's struggly love. And a lot of us have had that kind of energy and connection. That is struggly love when someone is like, oh, well, if you're not coming after me, and if you're not incredibly, ridiculously, toxically possessive, and you're not fighting me, and you're not calling my phone inappropriately, meaning like repeatedly. I've watched people be in their own struggle love, whether they realize I knew it or not. And I was like, this is a hot mess. That is not what I wanted at the next iteration of my life. And we idealize that because a lot of us come from trauma bonds. I remember watching my mother and father as they broke up all the time because he was incredibly physically and emotionally abusive. And she would run away for freedom and she would take me. And I remember one time he intercepted us leaving, and we were in a VW bug cab, and we were backing out of the driveway of his house. And he came in and he put his hand, his big burly hand, through the window. And it was a female cab driver. She was petite. And he tried to pull her out of the window for trying to take me and my mom away. And when she put it in park and backed up, and then other family members arrived to try to diffuse the situation, I remember sitting all the way in the back of that bug and looking and thinking, this is what love is, struggly. I was excited. I remember being, when I say I was excited, it was like it was a high what's the word? It was a high anxiety moment, but it was high adrenaline. That's the word. I remember being like, "Oh my gosh, my dad loves my mom so much he won't let us leave." But he was incredibly abusive and toxic. And that's when that imprint came in my brain. I'm going to ask you to reflect on your life and do the same and figure out when you thought that high drama equated love and was good. And I remember that moment thinking like, wow, this is what love feels like. And so then I subconsciously recreated those moments in my life with partners that were emotionally cruel or possessive or whatever, because I thought that that's what love felt like. But it was struggly. It was never snuggly. And there was no snuggly with my dad. It was all struggly. And that's why my mom finally left when she did, because she was seeking snuggly. She'd had the struggly. She'd had the abuse. She'd had the misuse. She had the mishandling. She had the lack of support. She had the person that didn't know her worth. And it's because, I guess, for a moment, she didn't know her own message. You guys get it? That's what this really boils down to. Do you know your own worth? When I watched that and my angels played that back for me, and they said that's that moment that you programmed yourself to be in love that's struggly, I realized it was true. And I want to ask the same of you. Do you know when that moment happened? Do you know when that was true for you? When you decided that high drama and abuse meant that you were loved because someone was willing to quote unquote fight you or fight for you? In my last iteration of a struggling connection, at the end of it, I realized that the person wanted to put me in competition and wanted me to fight for her and all this other weird stuff when I had fought for her every day by being snuggly in a good way. Make sense? I had showed up, I had done right, I had been polite, I had been considerate, I had coddled her, I had enabled her bullshit. I had done things that I shouldn't have done. It wasn't all perfect, meaning I enabled a lot of her bullshit. She needed to be cussed out a long time ago. No one in her life ever held her to task and held her accountable. Everybody acted like she was some victim and she wasn't. She was the orchestrator of chaos on the low. But because I was used to struggling, I didn't want to let it go. because I thought, this is it. Stay in the trenches with them. And as soon as she climbed out of those trenches, she put her muddy, dirty boot right on my face and told me to get back in my place and fuck off. That's what Struggley Love does. That's the payoff. There is no payoff, guys. So that's what I am telling you. Understand that it's not all got to be a fight and whatever. And when I said in that last part, I watched her be in a struggle love connection where it was fighting and competition, meaning I was watching her be in another connection where she was doing all the struggly things that she valued because she's never done her own work to know that she could ascend to. I don't give a damn anymore about her ascension. I'm out of that business for her, 1,000%. But it was an interesting case study. I was really watching her like she was under a petri. She was in a petri dish and under a microscope. It was very fascinating to me. I was like, oh, this is the effery that I was doing with you, or doing for you, or doing in other connections too. And that's what I want you guys to pay attention to. I got to watch her be in this very toxic, unhealthy relationship that she didn't think I knew was happening. And I thought that really resonates with you. And her wound was a mother wound. And I told her so when I departed, because I always will leave information. Even if I'm brokenhearted, I'm always a teacher. And I was like, oh, this is your mother. And this is one of your first narcissists. I was very clear with her. You watched these dynamics and you recreated it. And that's where you were comfortable. I was never going to be a right fit because I was trying to ascend from Struggley to Snuggley, but she loved it. She loved Struggley. She created our dynamic, which was really Snuggley, to become Struggley because that toxicity was very comfortable for her. That's where she liked to live. And that was what she recreated. And she now had it in spades. And I was like, this is not me. I got to get away. So I recommend for you to do the same. Reflect on those past relationships, reflect on the games, and see where you may have dropped the ball for yourself, where you thought that you were not as important as someone else, and that you had to prove your worth by staying in the struggle. Mama, it is a lie. You deserve sweetness. You deserve someone who holds you when you cry. You deserve someone who holds space. You deserve someone who exudes grace. You deserve someone who will not lie to your face. You deserve to not be gaslighted. You deserve to not be pushed away. You deserve someone who will follow through when you plan beautiful days. You deserve someone who is looking forward to your success and abundance. You deserve someone who doesn't think that you're flaunting it when you're happy, but is happy for you too because they know happy days are attached to them and you. Meaning that when we are in synergy with a partner, we'll be having lives that mirror each other. So when my Snuggly has a moment of success, I'm really happy for her and I know that she's blessed, but I know that blessings will befall me, not because she gives them to me, but because we are vibrating in the same energy. Ain't God good? That's your message for this morning. Find the Snuggly that will treat you right. Leave the Struggly behind. When you do that, you will alchemize your energy and actually be the best person that you can be because there's nothing like being loved and supported properly. I love you guys so much. Come back and join me next time, and we will continue to evolve together. Quick message here from Kesala. Your messages always come on time. Literally been in distress the last couple of days over an ex I left over 2 years ago. I've been feeling his energy in my chest and it's been strong. Kesala, we are in Venus retrograde. That message, when I read the end of your message, it was 3:33. We are in Venus retrograde. So what I want you to do is go listen to my Venus retrograde message. I just put it up last night and it is especially for you. First of all, how you can survive Venus retrograde, but also there's another message about did they even resonate. When Venus retrogrades happen, what will happen is that we will reflect on an ex and think about it. And I totally get it. My Struggley connection was over several years ago now, but I definitely reflected and I realized the blessing of extracting myself out out of it. I want you to get your lessons, Kesala, from that situation. And Kesala says, I knew I needed to leave because I wasn't happy with myself, and I told him not to wait for me. But recently I found out he's engaged and married, and I've been feeling guilt. Well, Kesala, I will tell you that there is someone that's right for you. And that's the thing. Sometimes other people do find other boots. But the truth of the matter is that you needed to work on you and you did the right thing. Just because he is engaged and married doesn't mean that you did the wrong thing. It means that that is there waiting for you. Remember, I just said in this video, it's an escrow for you. So you had to find things for you that were true. You had to find yourself and you had to rebalance yourself. And don't feel guilt about that. You moved on from a relationship and a connection where you were not going to be able to feed him or he wasn't feeding you. There was something going on or that there wouldn't have been the separation between you two. And that's okay. Your marriage, your happiness, your engagement, your proper aligned relationship will come your way. And I'm proud of you because it's powerful and it's important. But not only is that, it's hard to do that kind of work. It's hard to figure out your worth, even if it's to what you feel is your detriment. Do not salivate over what you think he has, because he has exactly what he was supposed to have, just as you will too. But that case salo will come in the time when it's right for you. All right, guys, join me next time and we'll continue to evolve together.